Well, I wanted to get to one more article about that torture business before getting back to Hartner, Kansas. This is the Time magazine. The 4th of May is the date on it, '09. And it's commentary by Robert Baer. Dumb Intelligence. And I wanted to particularly point out that Baer is a former Middle East CIA field officer and also Times intelligence columnist. In other words, this isn't a guy like me or John Doe, any other John Doe. This is written by an experienced CIA field officer. Now, he didn't put the title on. Even newspapers, you know, you don't get to put the title on your articles. Some editor has that job. But the title you probably already saw is Dumb Intelligence. The torture memos prove that the U.S. sacrificed its moral authority for nothing. And he begins, it's easy to forget that when the U.S. began interrogating al-Qaeda operatives in 2002, the CIA had no idea what it was doing. The last time the agency had been charged with conducting hostile interrogations was during the Vietnam era, and most of those officers were long retired. The wisdom inside the CIA has always been that best intelligence is obtained through persuasion rather than coercion. New CIA recruits have even been counseled against using blackmail because the information it produced couldn't be relied on. Well, when the CIA was asked to resume hostile interrogations, they said, hey, we don't want to do it. The CIA did. Argued that the military was better equipped for the task. But Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld insisted the job belonged to the CIA. We now know that the September 11th mastermind, Khaled Sheikh Mohammed, was waterboarded 183 times in 1 month. His interrogator, a former CIA colleague of mine, remember Bowers writing this, admits he had almost no training in the technique and knew nothing about how the cumulative effect of waterboarding might affect the quality of the information he was trying to extract. Skipping along then, and picking up, Obama shouldn't stop at declassifying the memos. He needs to launch a full-scale investigation into our intelligence gathering practices over the past 8 years. Because once you get past the details of what was made legal to fight the war on terrorism, there's an even starker realization. We tortured people for almost no verifiable information. Period. Skipping again and picking up, the case for transparency was too great. The harsh tactics, isolation, sleep deprivation, humiliation, waterboarding, not only had been widely reported, but much of it was also acknowledged to have originated in the, quote, communist attempts to elicit false confessions from Air Force prisoners of war. End of quote. End of title. Continuing to quote from the article, a 1957 article written for the Air Force about abusive Chinese interrogations of U.S. troops during the Korean War. Anyone who wanted to could find it via Google for years. The crucial point, though, is that even the communists suspected that torture can't be relied on to produce more than false confessions, because people will say anything to make the pain stop. This is the history that Bush officials chose to ignore. Remember, I'm reading what Bauer said, the CIA operative. I asked a former CIA officer privy to the decision-making that led to the waterboarding of al-Qaeda leader Abu Zubaydah whether he thought the abusive tactics works, and he said, well, to a degree. Yeah, he said valuable stuff, but stuff that could have been extracted through patient and relentless persuasion. The memos also say it was because of the waterboarding of Mohammed that U.S. intelligence learned about a second wave of attacks planned for after September the 11th. Was there truly another 9/11 in the works? Maybe. Or maybe Mohammed made it up to stop the waterboarding. Skipping a little bit again to the conclusion, a thorough clearing of the air will help discredit the idea that we either torture terrorists or become victims. This false choice is played out on shows like 24, leaving people with a notion that had the FBI somehow caught one of the hijackers in the hours leading up to September 11th, torture would have led to the arrest of the 18 others before those planes took off. The truth is less sensational and more unsettling, but ultimately one that Americans should learn to accept. There are ticking time bombs out there, but torture won't get us any closer to discovering when they're going to go off. End of article.